And one of the things you also talk about is that it's important in order to kind of extend that runway, that longevity of people's lives, to slow down the metabolism as opposed to a faster metabolism and speeding it up. And it seems like, and I'll just speak for myself, I go pretty darn hard, and I work out hard, I exercise hard, and I think that I have a very, very elevated metabolism. And I'm wondering if in your philosophy, if that's actually maybe something that's harming my longevity and my lifespan by maybe going for a 2-hour mountain bike ride where I'm redlining it for 85% of the time. You know what I mean?
That's really an excellent question that we could bat around. So let's talk about here, because we're talking about a musculoskeletal metabolism based on how much exercise you do, right, versus a basal metabolic rate, that where your metabolism would be if you were not considering the calories burned through exercise or the enhanced demands of muscles that were exercised. So let's just talk about the basal metabolic first, and then we'll go into the exercise one, okay?
Yeah.
The basal one is that at rest, you have a certain caloric need to maintain your body mass at rest. And now, if your thyroid was running faster at a higher rate of function, and your body temperature was higher, and your respiratory quotient through breathing was burning more calories, you'd require more calories to burn your metabolic rate. And what I'm saying here is, as you eat more calories than you need and put on more body fat, your body takes the extra calories you didn't need, and it doesn't turn it all into fat. It knows it's bad to turn it all into fat. So the body shunts those calories into raising your basal metabolic rate. So the extra calories will increase your caloric burn by increasing your respiratory quotient, increasing your basal metabolic, your thyroid function, and increasing your body temperature. And that is going to age you faster. It's running your engine at a higher revolution, or at a higher rate. Yeah. And your body is making a pact with the devil and saying, you know what, I'll only turn half of those calories into body fat. So when a person is overweight by 50 pounds, they didn't just eat 50 pounds of extra food. They ate, 150 pounds of extra food. I'm talking about calories here. We'll have to turn fat calories into, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but of course, what I'm saying here is they ate a huge amount of extra calories they didn't need, because most of those extra calories were turned into increasing their metabolic rate. So as a person gains weight, their metabolic needs go up, their calorie needs go up to support the extra weight, and they're running their furnace at a higher rate. And they're aging themselves, burning out their stem cells and aging their telomeres rapidly to burn off those extra calories. So we want the metabolism to slow down and come back to normal again, where the caloric needs are lower. Okay. So I'm saying, contrary to popular viewpoints, it's not beneficial to take medicinal substances to speed up a metabolic rate so we can eat more food and not get fat. It's better to slow down our metabolic rate so we can eat less food and not get too thin. We want to maintain our muscles and maintain our strength while eating as little as possible. Okay, that type of metabolism is not the same thing as a person going out to the gym and running a couple of miles and then lifting weights for a couple of half hours or going skiing all day, because now you've revved up your musculoskeletal needs, which is a form of metabolism, you could argue. It's just semantics here. One is musculoskeletal caloric needs, which stays elevated after those exercise and can stay elevated chronically from the regular use of exercise. But that's not raising your basal, that's not raising your thyroid function. That's actually making you burn less calories in the resting mode and sleep. And that's actually making you having even a slower demand for calories when your heart is working better and your body is working more efficiently. So it puts a stress on the system that the body then responds with compensatory benefits that make you use less energy when you're in the resting phase. But it's still a stress on the body. And by the way, I just want to go back one step back and say that in the normal range of thyroid function, we see more heart attacks, more irregular heartbeats in the higher range, in the higher half, the middle to higher half of thyroid function, whereas those in the lower half generally have longer life and less cardiac arrhythmias. So we're saying it's better not to overly drive your thyroid and overly take thyroid medication to overly suppress your TSH to lose weight. It's not great to be taking medications and substances to make your metabolism speed up to lose weight, because you're putting yourself at risk. It's better to control your calories down to lose weight and not look for artificial things to stimulate yourself to lose weight. I just want to stick that in there. And then get back to this idea of exercise metabolism. With you, because you're doing a lot of exercise, it's not harming you. The metabolism from the extra muscle burn is not harming you because your basal metabolic rate's not being changed by that. However, it could be harming you if you exercise too excessively, because at some point in the amount of exercise you do, the capacity of human to exercise could exceed the compensatory benefits you get that your body builds back in response to the stress you go under. Yeah. And so that's why being a triathlete, a competitive triathlete, or a competitive marathon runner, or a competitive, long-term bike races and these 50-mile bike races and the training that necessitates that is not necessarily lifespan promoting. Even myself and certain cross-country skiers and young athletes may have enlarged hearts, may have increased risk of atrial fibrillation or later on in life from their heavy athletic devotions earlier in life. So yes, the exercise is a great thing, but at some point we have to say, well, that might be too much exercise. If your exercise becomes such an excessive part of your life where you're trying to compete on that kind of, such an aggressive and world level of exercise performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for going down that little rabbit hole with me there for a little bit. Yeah. So you mentioned that there's 3 factors that most powerfully slow kind of the aging process: phytochemicals, calorie restriction, and then exercise. And obviously we're talking about not excessive exercise, but the right amount of exercise.
Right.
I feel like we've talked about calorie restriction. When you say phytochemicals, what exactly are you talking about?
Well, plants contain hundreds or even thousands of different nutrients in them that largely haven't even been identified or named. But we have a whole bunch of protective chemicals. If you take the inositol pentachus phosphates that are in beans, or the bioflavonoids, or the anthocyanins in berries, or the isothiocyanates in green cruciferous vegetables, these aren't terms on people's lips, and they're talking about taking vitamin C and vitamin D. They're not talking about all these different names of all these different phytochemicals, and even the names of the ones, and we know how they work, and we know what they do to the body. And they know how important they are. And we know that there's ergothioneine in muscles, in mushrooms. And we know we have an ergothioneine receptor on the side of our cells to stabilize the DNA from aging. And so we have all the science to back that the function of these phytochemicals have important benefits to human survival and lifespan, yet nobody talks about them. And then just as many as that are identified, there's probably an equal or larger number that haven't even been identified yet. And we get this wide array of phytochemicals from eating a wide array of different types of food. And that's where I come to this statement where I say that we have this unprecedented opportunity in human history to live longer and push the envelope of human longevity, because our ancestors didn't have access to the science telling them what to eat, nor to the access to the type of foods we have access to today. We can eat mushrooms and scallions and microgreens and sprouts and baby lettuces in the wintertime and frozen wild blueberries. And we can, so instead of trying to narrow the diet and to say, just eat rice or just eat potato or we're trying to widen the variety of foods and say, well, try to incorporate mushrooms and onions and beans and berries and seeds and nuts and let's widen the variety of foods you can eat, because because we've seen from the science that we're collecting and investigating that the wider variety of wider exposure to these various types of fibers, plant compounds, phytochemicals, sterols, and stanols gives us the ability to have excellent health if we do not exceed our caloric requirements in the process of widening our nutritional exposure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And do you think that the best indicator, if you are not exceeding your calorie consumption, is just your weight and your BMI? Is that kind of a nice
body fat percent, you mean? And body fat percent? Yeah, but you and I know that some people who are not overweight still overeat. Mm-hmm. They still eat till they're full. I don't think it's good to eat till you're really stuffed. You don't have good digestion. They eat late at night. They go to sleep late at night. There are people who are lower body weights that are still not healthy. But yeah, I think it's a good indicator that your body fat is low. And it's hard to have a favorable body fat if you don't exercise and not overeat and not eat right. It's hard to get up to be 65, 70, 75 and have a favorable musculoskeletal strength and size and have a low body fat if you're not doing a lot of these right things. Most people get unhealthy and their blood pressure starts to rise, of course, too, but and their body fat rises and their numbers start to look worse. But you're right that I do think that the scale and the body fat percentages are major factors that determine your health.